without a calculator. What is this?
Sorry, I was sitting here for a second.
I kind of like to do 5 minutes of this every time we meet. What?
4.
Okay. Now, if you can't do this one in your head, that's okay. My primary concern is that you be able to do single digit times single digit. This is double digit times single digit. This happens to be 108. Okay? Don't need you to be able to do that one. These are the important ones here.
-5.
Mm-mm.
5.
Hold on a second. Which is the subtraction sign? Is it the first or the second dash?
The second.
No, this one. That negative sign, particularly because it's inside the parentheses, this is a negative sign here. This is a subtraction right there. Okay, so how do you do subtraction problems?
Give me a minute.
What?
Give me a minute. I'm texting my mom something.
How do you do a subtraction problem involving negative signs? What's the best way to do them? You turn them into addition problems.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can do that. I can make it an addition sign, but what I have to do to balance that out is change the sign on whatever was being subtracted. Well, I was subtracting a -7, but since I changed the subtraction to an addition, I got to change that to an addition. And now the problem is basically when you see 2 pluses in a row, that's the same as that. It's 9.
Yeah.
Give me the sign first. Whenever you're doing multiplication or division, I want you to tell me the sign first, even if it's plus. I want you to tell me minus or plus.
Negative.
You can go ahead and give me the number at the same time. Just always precede your answer with the sign.
-21.
Yeah. In other words, the reason I'm doing that is because I want you to think that way when you're doing these. I want you to figure out the sign first. Not on addition and subtraction problems, but on multiplication and division problems.
4.
Sign first.
2. +2.
Sign first. Always the sign first, even if it's positive. And there's a reason I'm doing that. Even though I'm not typing it in as +2, it'll get you to think about the sign first. And that's what you need to do. You need to think about the sign first.
100. -110. -2.
What's the subtraction sign? Is it the first dash or the second dash?
First.
Change it to an addition sign. And then what do you have to do with the number inside the parentheses?
It's still -2.
No, it isn't. 4 plus a plus 6.
+2.
Nope. Here's what you got to do. You got to do this by the steps. Okay? If I'm going to change that to a plus, then I have to change the sign of whatever follows. And what follows is a -6. So I got to change it to a +6. Now, what is 4 plus a +6?
10.
Okay. Just always do it in steps like that. Don't try to memorize. Okay. What's this?
0.
No, if you start with 3 cows and you give none of them away, how many cows do you have left?
3.
Okay, so if you start with -5 and you give none of them away, what do you have left?
5.
Nope. Negative.
-5.
In other words, when you subtract 0 from any number, you've got the original number, -5. In other words, whatever, hold on. Whatever that is always the answer. In other words, if I had 171 minus 0, that's 171. If I got -200 minus 0, that's -200. And guess what? Even if it's plus 0, it's still -200.
Yeah.
If it's plus 0, 0 is nothing. So whether you're adding or subtracting it from something doesn't change the original something.
One.
I want the sign first always now. Even on addition and subtraction. First of all, what do you notice? You notice that you are subtracting a bigger number from the original number. That always gives you a negative number. If I subtract 6 from 2, 2 minus 6, you can't do that. That's got to be negative. It's only positive if the starting number is bigger than the next number. Well, that's the case here. This is 7 minus 8. So we, right off the get-go, we know the answer has to be negative something. What is it?
-1.
Okay.
6.
Correct. Notice that this problem is exactly the same as 10 minus 4.
Yeah.
In other words, by having the plus and the minus next to one another, basically turns it into a minus. So it's a simple subtraction problem. 10 minus 4. You just have to memorize this. Give me the sign first.
Positive.
Okay. So the number?
81.
No, remember the first. Here, let's go through this. This is worth talking about additionally. You got part of it correct, which is the digits have to add up to 9, right? Whatever my answer is, in 81, those digits do add up to 9. But when I am multiplying a single digit by 9, the first digit is always one less than this one right there.
Yeah.
So the first digit has to be a 7. Now, what goes with the 7 so that it adds up to 9?
2.
That's what 9 times 8 is. 72. And the 9 tables you can always figure out. They're the simplest tables, except for maybe the ones tables. If I say, what's 9 times 6? What's the first digit of the answer?
9.
No, it's 1 less than that number.
Oh, okay.
So what's the first digit of the answer?
50. It's 54.
50 what?
54.
Yeah. I mean, once you come up with that, then you can always come up with that by just figuring out what does it take to add to 9. So
Yeah.
the secret is that this first digit is always 1 less than that second digit, whatever the 9 is multiplying by. If I'm multiplying 9 times 4, then the first digit is a 3. And now what do I have to put with the 3 to make it add to 9? A 6. Sign first even on these.
+2. -8.
Good. See, after a while, when you memorize them, you can do it in 2 seconds. +2, okay.
And then I gotta go downstairs to I'm gonna go downstairs. Okay. Yeah. Alright, let's go.
So what's 12 minus 10?
2. +2.
+2, okay.
6. -81.
Good. Notice the first digit is 1 less than that second 9. 8. Quicker with the positive or negative. That's easy. I mean, that should take about half a second to tell me whether it's positive or negative. There's only 4 combinations. You either have negative times negative, which is positive, you have positive times positive, which is positive, and every other combination is negative.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is this?
+90.
Even if it takes you a second or two to come up with the number, I want the positive or negative as quickly as you can give it to me on multiplication and division. On these, these are actually harder, believe it or not. This is much harder than multiplication or division. For one thing, you have subtraction going on, and there's negative numbers involved. Which is the subtract? What was the answer?
4.
No. Which is the subtraction sign here?
The 5.
Which is, the 5 is a number. There's 2 dashes. One of those dashes is a subtraction sign. The other dash is a negative sign. Which is which?
The one in front of the 5.
The one in front of the 5 is which? The subtraction or the negative?
The subtraction.
Okay, so let's label that. Hold on. When you come across a problem like this, you're not going to be able to memorize the answer. You have to do the math, and you have to do it in steps. It's a two-step process. Okay?
Yeah.
What's the first step?
You
Always the same first step, Jackson. Hasn't changed.
well, it's addition. You have to.
We change the subtraction sign to an addition sign. Now, what do I have to do? I can't just arbitrarily do that. What's that?
It's -4.
No, it isn't. What else do I have to do when I change that subtraction sign to an addition sign? You have to change the sign of whatever follows. Well, what follows?
Okay, that's
What follows that subtraction?
-14.
Okay. What followed it was a 5, a positive 5. So I got to make that a negative 5. And now what I'm doing is I'm adding -9 to -5. Now it's easy. Nobody has any problems with this. So as long as you do it step by step, hold on one second. As long as you do it step by step, it becomes a really easy problem. You have to do it in 2 steps. Whenever there's a negative sign involved, just know that. Just memorize what those 2 steps are. It's this one.
Uh, 40.
Plus or minus first.
+40.
Okay.
+14. Okay. -9.
Nope.
+9.
Only 4 combinations, Jackson. When you have a negative times a negative or divided by a negative, it turns into a positive.
Yeah, it's +9. 0.
Okay.
Yeah, 0.
The faster you get, the better.
-3.
No? I want you to do it by the 2-step process. What you're looking at is a subtraction problem, and there's a negative sign involved. Another one, besides the subtraction. So you have to do it as 2 steps.
+17.
Good.
90. -32.
Good.
0.
Good.
6. +8.
Do it in 2 steps. What are you looking at? You're looking at a subtraction problem where there's another negative sign involved.
10.
What?
-10.
Negative 10.
-16.
Okay, good.
-12.
There you go.
Excuse me.
When you add two negative numbers, the answer is always what sign?
Positive. It's a positive.
You're getting multiplication and addition mixed up. When you're
It's
multiplying two negatives, it turns into a positive. When you are adding two negative numbers,
Positive 4.
it's a negative 4.
You want to go somewhere else that's quiet?
All right. We're out of time. I hate to belabor this one page all the time, but we really can't get past this until you learn this.
Yeah.
There's just no doing math without being able to do these pages perfectly or near perfectly. Now, you're not bad. You're getting a little bit better, but I need you to spend some time on your own doing it. And usually after a week's vacation, people drop off a little bit. So that's why I wanted to spend some time on it. And you have dropped off a little bit. You got to get back into knowing these.
Yeah.
The best way to do it is on your own, not with me hanging off your head. If you do it on your own, it'll come easy, you'll get better, and you will.
Yeah, I know.
Okay? All right, Jackson. Jackson, I will talk to you on your second session this week, which I think is a Sunday, maybe? I think it's Sunday morning.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hang up. Hang it up. Dude, I'm going to need you to put some more effort into this stuff, okay?